I have to thank you for bringing us to this beautiful venue and for the opportunity to have voices from each of the different groups that I know either a lot or a little bit about, to have us all come together. So thank you for your efforts. I know this is your brainchild. And also, Mr. Smith, you are a tough act to follow. Bravo. Let me just read a little bit, an introduction from Songs from the Castle's Remains, which was put out by the Grey Court Poets, so you have a little feeling for who we are. The Grey Court Poets is a grassroots Methuen-based poetry group that seeks to enhance the Methuen growing cultural community by providing an outlet for creative people. The mission is to provide a forum where people can learn about poetry, have their writing critiqued, work on poetry reading skills, and share and provide resources. And our newest activity, in which my co-chair or co-editor, Pilar Quintana, maybe you can raise your hand, she and I are, with a subgroup, are working on putting a book together, which we suspect will be out sometime late summer. And so it's an ekphrastic poetry book that has artwork from the Arts Institute group of the Merrimack Valley, to which individual Grey Court poets wrote a poem. So it'll have color pictures, it'll have the poems superimposed right on top of the artwork, and we're looking forward to sharing that with you. And now, I'd like to introduce our first member for this evening, Brian Freikenberg. He's been a member of our group for 3 years. He lives in Andover, and he works as a librarian, scholar, and teacher. Is that incredible, to work as a scholar? He's a volunteer at the Museum of Printing in Haverhill and has been an advocate for public school and community tennis. Please welcome Brian Freikenberg.
Great to be here today. I've got a little bevy of poems here. One of them, when we just had our last meeting, it was kind of a fresh poem, and sometimes when you have something new, you just, it's nice to read something that just came off your pen. So I think I'll read this one first, and if you can hear me, it's a little bit whimsical, just an observation from my backyard, actually. So, and it's called Chicken Hawk. I saw something today, a hawk that walked like a chicken, bobbing along the dirt way through dead plants, picking for a careless mole or sparrow lost in the late March snow. Some harsh joke of nature in this unaccustomed cold, as the far-seeing raptor clucked about in our yard. But a hen's eye toward her grain is the sharpest of all, they say. I'm thinking I like birds a lot, so maybe I don't want to give this one away. I like haiku. Every now and then a haiku will come along, and I was just musing the other day that they always come in the same place. We have this wonderful bike path in our neighborhood. You can kind of, it goes between where the elementary school is and you know, some of the houses, and for some reason this is the place to write haikus. So there's one. This one's called Fisher. A cold cloaked heron stoops over the wooded brook, pointing at water. And here's another one that's actually from a walk. I walk here at good times, for me at least, to make poems or to muse about things that might turn into something like a poem. And this one is called At This Turn. After the suspended hour fades through the windows of others in the smells of children's suppers and sated clatter of cleaned-up plates, the soft asphalt shrugs at these steps in the evening where a distant dog barks. A shrill of crickets exalts this cool relief, joins the low plains drone, the pedal tone of a stealthy car padding the lane on half-pumped tires, a chittering sprinkler, a wet compressor's sigh. At this turn, silver birches etch the bungalow where voices of two women blend on the apron of the drive as they hoist a full trash barrel each. "I'll wait for my lawyer to call me," says one. Maybe just a couple more if there's time. Here's one I've called Inscription. What is said speaks for itself. The words are ghosts straining for breath to shape the past, or what might be a disintegral possibility poised by desire toward the chiseled deed. The wind now scours at depths that will not change. Face this stone, reoriented to the sun. Stand still and be alone with what is done. And here's a poem to bellyache about technology. This is called The Singularity. We made this machine mindful of its skill. Our image leers back at us knowingly through the screen in glimmering pixels. A new self for the one we quickly pawned to the smiling panoptic daimon. One distracted eye thrown into this votive spring, all agog to get trinkets in place of a pearl no wise diver can scoop away from that clever, upreaching claw. That access we craved now reads us only as our master, offering distorted visions from the cloudy pool in process-colored printouts. Over this magic well's lip then we'll lean blindly toward the rippled deep and admire the new world nightmare. It's just virtual, really.
Our next reader is Jim Knowles, who probably needs no introduction, but I will do my best. Jim Knowles' poems have appeared in the Best of Cafe, From East to West, the Inkwell Journal, and the Rand Furley Review. He won first prize in the 2010 Poetry Superhighway Contest and second in the 2010 Inkwell competition. He, of course, attends the Hoots, where he is a valued member, and the Great Court Poets as well. And his books are Taki and Nighthawks, and can be found at blurb.com. Jim Knowles.
I told Gail she could use the old intro because it's good to have a reminder of those things. It's good to have a reminder of Great Courts 2 with Pilar coming up, and I got for Brian, one word of criticism I have more than the Great Courts is more, please. That's 2 words. So I was at a more raucous group in Ipswich last night, and that was pretty interesting. But they had a lot of Lynn poets there, so they were kind of wild. So trying to figure out, he was trying to fit me in at the very end. So I'm trying, I'm always fumbling through things when an event's going on, and get my one hit, leave them wanting more. So it was something that was old back when I was with a more raucous group and doing art like this. Commercial for something. I don't know if you remember back in maybe 2008, 2009, there were commercials where they had a lot of rapid camera cuts and sweaty faces and winking people and dripping beer and things. And anyway, so I was watching this commercial, and sometimes you make a social commentary and this phenomena just disappears. So it's one of the values of poems, is to capture something in a way that you can't with pictures. So this is commercial for something. So I'm warning you, this is for the Ipswich crowd, so. He has doting Ray-Bans, if that's possible. A spring twangs as the door waves shut, pulls him in, slaps shut on his behind. His right eyebrow thanks her for giving him a sweaty bottle. The cold bottle thanks him for his warm lips by settling down the fizz. He thanks the fizz with his tongue, wagging it so the bubbles spark at the tip. Both her eyebrows thank his tongue by raising quickly and then slowly rolling down. Her pupils complete the curtsy, pointing. His eyes seem to look away, but his hand comes up and consults with his chin, and his eyes drift out the window while his tongue taps a beat on his teeth to a Mark Anthony tune that's making her hips sway her braided belt. I have no idea what they were selling. And there's a lot of characters and flavors in the Merrimack Mike anthology that Isabel completed recently, and so I felt like I had to have some flavors there too, although perhaps not as sparkly and beery and camp door slapping the butt, but you know, that sort of thing. Anyway.
I think Merrimack Anthology number 5 needs to be a lot more raucous.
A little more raucous?
Yeah, that was kind of, you know, I like raucous.
Oh, well, you hold your own with that. With the hydraulic press and we won't go into that.
Okay, yeah.
I'm trying to get her to put some AC/DC behind it, you know, some rock. So, what do we got? It's kind of weird. See, I try to listen to everyone else, so it's hard when I read. So. Oh, Dinner Roll Dream. So this, I'm imagining I'm Don from Mad Men. And I had this Muzak behind it at one point, so. The Dinner Roll Dream. The Cadillac nosed and bobbed, poured off the gravel road onto the fescue, tailwind laced with gasoline and chlorophyll, as we stepped into the May noon. The birds restarted their songs when the heavy doors thumped shut. A tree-topped blue jay's greedy yell as I hoisted the wicker basket from the trunk. The cool shade of the apple tree, pulling off socks and shoes, the dissipating dew on our toes, the curried chicken and walnuts, dinner rolls soft and yeasty, watermelon cubes and champagne. You happily pinned between a novel and the trunk of the apple tree, my head on your gingham lap, watching the clouds transmogrify into horses and divers, mountains and toads as they raced silently across the cobalt ocean, over the vast and small things of the ongoing creation. And you saying, "This isn't happening. It never happened. You wandered into a movie again." I remember saying, "Just one more dinner roll."
Thank you, Jim. We all love the levity. Our next reader is Pilar Quintana. She's a poet, artist, musician, and actor. She's a member of the Grey Chorus, as you now know, and also the Arts Institute group of the Merrimack Valley. Her poems have appeared in Methuen Life and in My Citizens Poetry website, which was maintained by the town of North Andover, and at Athens, which is Georgia's word of mouth. She draws inspiration from traveling, nature, quantum physics, metaphysics, and the fine art of trash talking. B- rated art in general and her own multiple personalities. Her work can be found at www.pilar-quintana.net. I welcome you.
I have one poem. My poems tend to be a little bit lengthy, so I'm just going to read the one. It's in 5 parts. It's also a poem for my mother, and it is a sad and happy poem, I think, like all relationships are. She's passed since, so she's been gone for a very long time, but I still remember her all the time. We were very close. This is called The Unspoken Prayer. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. My last confession was too long ago for me to remember, but I remember my sin. We block the things in life that mean the most to us when we're afraid of losing them. We send our sick to hospitals, our old to nursing homes, where they will be better cared for, where we won't have to watch them turn into barely recognizable versions of who they once were, who we once loved. We clean, potent, modern people. We like our meat in nicely packaged plastic containers, our television to spare us the images of carnage that our weapons produce. Unless it's a horror movie, then we like our carnage just fine, because it isn't real, is it? We don't like real. We dye it in sculpts, nip, tuck, and suction, shave, dye, and transplant. We shelter ourselves from what we fear and tell ourselves that such things will not happen to us. We are not deteriorating. We will not die. When I developed panic disorder, the doctors told me I would not die. I didn't, but my heart hurt as if I was. When my mother was dying, her heart also hurt, but her condition was too real for me to deal with. I told her to find a new job, to fall in love, all the things I couldn't tell myself. I told her that I loved her and that she was not allowed to die. She was allowed to live. Part 2. Why did I think you needed protecting? You who could do anything, who read newspapers with your father when your brothers were not interested, when girls were supposed to learn cooking and cleaning. You went to college, married a man who cooked. Elizabeth Taylor, Cleopatra face with dark amber eyes. They glowed like embers in the sun, your untamed laugh, the liberated woman. But your fire had been smoldered by the man who opened your mind, caught you lowering your scoop-necked blouse to reveal smooth, freckled shoulders. Improper, unholy. You never lowered it again. And the fire in your eyes burned down to unextinguishable embers. Embers in your modest bathing suit, beneath your pre-Vatican II veil, in the shapeless polyester business suit that held you tighter than a corset. Why did I think you needed protecting? You sought perfection with the unmistakable assurance that it was attainable. Turned a blind eye when I spent the night up reading because you did too. A different book each night, a different world. Musketeers, you called us. And if we were, you were Aramis. Priest by ordination, but just as handy with a sword. Sure of the heavens, sure of yourself, you ran from your country with a wedding ring and a suitcase, gave birth to your child among people whose language you had learned at school. Saved the house we one by one abandoned and bequeathed it to us. You who would have buildings named after you. Spoke your mind at rallies and protests, churches and high schools, at the White House, on television. So educated, so accomplished, so beautiful. You thought yourself plain. Tears held in check as if you were afraid they might put out your embers, as if you were afraid you might stop protecting. Part 3. For some people, death is the key they keep in the center of their cell. My mother was not afraid of sickness, old age, or death. Told she would die, she put her affairs in order, updated her will, sorted old photographs for future generations, and painted the walls of her house white. Perhaps she wanted to leave something clean and uncluttered, to give us something new, something to build on, and remember her. She loved the color white. I hated it. white of repentance, of the life well led, untouched, unblemished, unseen, the white of hospitals, sterile and stagnant and waiting for death. I recoiled at those white walls, the simple eloquence of their blankness, stating that I was not welcome. I did not belong. The one unspoken phrase between us, I knew who she needed me to be. She knew who I needed her to be, but neither one of us could be anyone but ourselves. Part 4. Oh, how beautiful your long-suffering face. Christian martyr honed from Hollywood starlets. I never saw you cry. Instead, you wore the face of angels, noble and resolute, eyes downcast, virgin of virgins, your pain all the more splendid in your statue-like grace. I would emulate that grace. Unshed tears, unseen suffering, or rather, suffering perfected for presentation. Offered as sacrament, your body and blood raised like an unspoken prayer for the downtrodden. Such pride in your fall, however small the stumble, the slightest imperfection condemned and sublimated by your Spartan purity. I simply craved your poise. To conquer pain and suffering through artifice, to seek it out in fact, and walk among men, eyes downcast and scarlet, heart blazing for all to see. I longed to learn how to suffer, how to turn each fault into a victory, until I no longer believed myself capable of flaw, to conquer my deficiencies with such rectitude that their very disclosure rendered them transformed into sacred relics for salvation. Save me now if you can, Goddess of transformation. My imperfections will not be sublimated. They roil beneath my stony facade and demand to be acknowledged for what they are. They rattle at the bars of their subjugation. Where is the pride I would emulate? Why does it not well in my breast? Why do I cower, afraid and unable to face the lion with eyes downcast? Mine is an arrogant pride. You will not say what you can. I cannot say what I would. My pride is bound and gagged and stares at its oppressors defiantly, if silently. It will not beg for mercy any more than yours, but it does not know how to be resigned, the sweet peace of resignation, the sanctification of the shackle. I rattle my chains. If I cannot speak, I scream the stifled scream of the silenced. Unheard and unwelcome, unspoken prayers. Part 5. I look over a turquoise sea, her Caribbean. How she loved the water. 80 laps she would swim while I counted and watched her slow, graceful line. The water was transparent. My chest hurts. I'm afraid to swim in the ocean. My mother was afraid of homosexuality. She was afraid of deviants, people who smoked marijuana, alcoholics, people who lacked control, loose women, overt sexuality, cross-dressers, effeminacy, and mannishness. People who do not behave the way she believed people should. She was not racist. She did not believe a woman's place was in the home. She believed in opportunity for everyone, regardless of age or race or creed or gender. But if they didn't behave a certain way, they frightened her. I was afraid if I told her who I was, I would lose her. She never taught me how to live without her. I never told her I needed to. I look out and I see unfathomable depths, but she would swim beyond the waves in her slow, graceful line, lie on her back, freckled face to the sun, and float on the current of life. Thank you.
Our next reader is Jessica Sanchez, who is a great voice that you'll know of from the Hoots at Cafe Azteca in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Please welcome Jessica.
So I sometimes make it to Great Court meetings, but with my crazy work schedule, I haven't been able to. But I'm very grateful because the book that Gail was talking about that's coming out, my poem was chosen to be in that book, and
Yay!
yay!
Yeah.
Will actually be the first poem ever published by me, for me, even though I have a million of them. So I will warn you beforehand, the term is ekphrastic. Is that what it is? Ekphrastic. So you guys might blush a little bit.
I doubt it.
Good for the circulation.
So we were asked to look at these images and write a poem. And the image that I chose, it was a boy being blindfolded, and it was only from his shoulders up with pink eye. It's called The Game She Likes to Play. Close your eyes, she says. Keep them closed. She takes off her scarf and places the soft, sweetly scented material over his eyes. I'm blindfolding you, she says. In that moment, half naked himself, he pauses and relishes in the moment that is approaching. The moment when she will take his hands and place them somewhere on her warm body. She will ask him to use his senses, other than sight, to describe what she feels like. They've played this game before, and each time it's a little different. A different texture, a different feel. To him, every moment with her is sensory overload. He enjoys caressing her and can vividly picture her beautiful glowing face under the warmth of his touch. Deep inside, he wished she would blindfold him more often so he can indulge in the games that she likes to play.